Welcome back to my channel, Sunshine Shoulders. I'm Calvin. Thank y'all so much for stopping by today. If Charlie Kirk were a black man, would he still be alive today? This isn't to mock Charlie Kirk. You know, one of the amazing things about Charlie Kirk, in my opinion, was how far he was able to rise in society with such little credentials that he had. And I thought to myself, if he were a black man with the same credentials, with the same education or lack of education, same abilities, under the same social, economic, and political circumstances, would he have been able to become this figure in American politics that Charlie Kirk was up until his death? I came up to the conclusion, no. And I think y'all know why. You know, it's truly amazing. All you got to do is look at Charlie Kirk's history. You know, look at his life. You know, he's from Illinois, right outside Chicago. He graduated high school, that was it. He attended Harper College very briefly and dropped out. Junior college, community college. We call them junior colleges in Louisville, Kentucky. You know, he had very little education, but he did eventually gain the backing of some very wealthy donors and Republican, conservative organizations that were able to help him amplify his message and expand his reach. And I'm going to tell you why he was able to do that. See, as a black man, he would have never had those privileges. See, Charlie Kirk and people like Charlie Kirk, they enjoy certain societal privileges. We call it white privilege. And I know people push back on white privilege, but it's because most white people don't even realize the obvious advantages that they have just from their skin color. Some of them are less obvious. But you can't argue that. And the biggest of these advantages is the freedom to move, to buy, to work, to play, and speak freely. As a white man in America, Charlie Kirk had that advantage. See, if Charlie Kirk were black, he doesn't enjoy that advantage. He doesn't have the benefit of white privilege. He would be facing or confronted with the black stigma, the racism and discrimination that stunts the growth of many black people and brown people in America. We're talking about in America and Western society. There was one American academic, she called it an invisible set of unearned assets, is what white privilege was. But anyway, if Charlie Kirk were black, he would have never enjoyed that advantage, because it comes with a lot of advantages. Like I said, first of all, at 18 years old, starting an organization like Turning Point USA, they would have never taken a black man serious. There is no black Charlie Kirk counterpart. There never has been, there never will be. Remember I was telling you about the wealthy donors and everything that backed him up. See, as a black man, he wouldn't have had that backing. The only time I can ever remember a black man having backing like that, certainly from the black community, was Barack Obama. And to compare Barack Obama with his lofty credentials, Harvard and everything like that, President of the United States, to Charlie Kirk, it tells you what I'm talking about in a nutshell right there. As a black man, Charlie Kirk would have faced obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. He never would have rose to the prominence that Charlie Kirk did before he died. See, that's what's really amazing about Charlie Kirk. It's how far he came with very little credentials that he had. There was a study actually done in New York City. I want to say, don't quote me because I'm going to put the link in the description. I want to say it was the National Library of Medicine that did this study where they took black applicants, white applicants, and Latino applicants. They gave them the same abilities, the same aptitudes, the same resumes, and they sent them on hundreds of job searches. Of course, when the results reflected the white privilege that white people enjoy in America, the advantages, because if you were black, you were half as likely to get a call back as your white counterparts with the same resume. Okay, and if you were black and Latino, you were less likely to be considered for a job than a white man who had just got out of prison, than a white applicant that had just got out of prison. See, this is the cards that Charlie Kirk was playing with, that he was dealt. See, and he didn't have any choice in the matter of being born white, but being born white in America and most Western society is a big advantage. So when you look at it, Charlie Kirk, as a black man, would have just been screaming into the universe with whatever opinions and views that he had. No one would have ever taken him serious. He certainly wouldn't have been considered the type of threat that black men are looked at as, and that Charlie Kirk, made a living talking about. They never would have shot him. They never would have killed him. They're calling him the Martin Luther King of the day only because as a black man, you have to be as skilled and as knowledgeable and have the lofty credentials that Martin Luther King had to even be on a level with a white Charlie Kirk and the little credentials that he had. So that's why I just wanted to have this short discussion today. I want you to think, see, this is the problem in America, okay? It's not DEI. It's not DEI. It's the unfair playing field that we're dealing with over there. I believe his message resonated with middle America, with, a lot of people, a lot of white people, average and mediocre white people who have to compete with the black and brown people. So when they say DEI, it gets their attention, but they say, yeah, that's the reason I didn't get the job. Or the immigrants. See, that was the message that he was putting out there, and it had weight, okay? It carried weight, and it made him powerful. I mean, you can't deny that. So no, I'm not here to mock him. This is a compliment. It's really admirable for somebody to go from the humble beginnings that he had. Now, yeah, there was a change in the winds of the Republican Party, a lot of change, populist movement and all of that. But to have started as an 18-year-old, I want to say in 2012, and to, in his words, been invited to the White House over 100 times, hosted by the president. He didn't have a college degree. If you're a black man in America and without a college degree, you're not going to really get off home base. Hey, you're probably not even going to get called up to bat, certainly in the political arenas, and you just aren't going to occupy that space that Charlie Kirk did. So thank y'all so much for stopping by. I just want you to think, and then to be able to be the angry black man, because you'd have been labeled an angry black man if you were spouting off the stuff that Charlie Kirk was spouting off. You would have been counseled a long time ago. You wouldn't have been killed, but you would have been counseled. You wouldn't be on anybody's platform. You wouldn't be hosted at the White House. You would have your own podcast, but nobody would sponsor it. Okay? That's what a black Charlie Kirk would have looked like. He'd have still been alive today, still enjoying his wife and children and his family, You know, it's terrible what happened to him, really. I mean, he died in front of the whole world for real. I think the last time, and I can't even remember, but the last time somebody was shot like that, you would have to go back to President Kennedy. I mean, I know Robert Kennedy was shot, but I don't think he was, I think he was shot coming through the kitchen. I mean, there was literally millions of people watching Charlie Kirk when he got killed in front of his wife and kids. You know, so you can't deny the atmosphere over in America. You know, America's always been a dark and dangerous place, guys. You know, let's stop all this foolishness and pretend like it's something new. You know, I don't condone that stuff. It scares the daylights out of me. You know, if nothing else, that man had courage. Somebody was backing him for him to have the courage that he had, to speak the words that he spoke, to be so bold as he was. And he, you know, he basically didn't back down for anybody. Now, one criticism I did have against him was he never really debated anybody for real. None of the great debaters. I would have loved to see him debate the guy. What's his name? From Zadio. What's his name? Mahdi. I would have loved to see him, you know, or Farrakhan, or just anybody real knowledgeable like that. Even that guy they called the Saint. I would have loved to see him, you know, but he was just basically debating, you know, high school kids and getting them engaged. This is a great idea he had, you know. He was able to present his ideas to the masses, you know, because people, they love to interact and stuff like that. All you got to do is look in the comments of these YouTube videos and you'll see people want to be heard. So if you're in America, if you're in the Philippines, wherever you are, find your heart to help somebody. Not a day goes by, I don't help somebody. Because if I don't know anything else, I know this one thing for sure. We help other people, we help ourselves. Take care. Stay safe, stay out of trouble. I'll see you next time. Don't do anything stupid. You know, respect people's opinions. Respect their perspectives because it's theirs. If there is one flaw in the human makeup, and I heard this from a TED Talk, it's that there's 8 billion perspectives. So there's always going to be drama. There's always going to be competition. There's always going to be problems in the world. But I don't think the solution is to pick up a gun and kill anybody. But obviously, we've created that atmosphere over in America. And, you know, sadly, you know, Charlie Kirk's life was taken by that same, you know, that same message really that he was putting out there about the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. So take care, y'all. But I want you to think about something. If Charlie Kirk were a black man, would he still be alive today? I say yes, he would. Because he never would have risen to the prominence that the white Charlie Kirk did. He never would have enjoyed the advantages that the white Charlie Kirk did. He never would have had the backing of the wealthy donors, the organizations. He wouldn't have had the mega platforms to expand his message, to amplify his message. It just wouldn't have happened, guys. Not with those credentials.